Hi, everybody. It's Nancy Chappell Smokler here with the South Simcoe Theatre, and I'm very pleased to have with me Nathan Heydon, who is the playwright of our April Foreplay Friday, which was Mourning, Belle. That was on April the 16th, and we're really thrilled to have you here with us today to talk a little bit about your playwriting and all the good things that you're doing up there in Barrie. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Nathan before we get started. Nathan is a working stiff with an inconsequential bachelor's degree in communication studies and philosophy who lives in Barrie, Ontario. And as you can tell, this is his own words, not mine. And he sometimes spends his free time allowing his crazy ideas to drain out of his head via writing. He's performed in 4 musicals with the South Simcoe Theatre, including Little Shop of Horrors and Curtains. And he's performed in 4 years of foreplay readings, and his first play, which was called Ships, was featured during the 2017 season of Foreplay. So this particular play that you've written, Mourning, Belle, you wrote this specifically for Foreplay. However, when I think you wrote it, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, none of us knew that this was going to be performed virtually and in a pandemic. So has the new format that we delivered it in sparked any ideas about how you might change your writing style, or particularly for this play, were you able to make any changes based on the revised presentation format, or did we just do it the way it was written?
Yeah, so it was written, I suppose the genesis of the idea came around early 2017. And then I tried to make a strong push to finish something for the 2017 foreplay submission deadline. Only got through maybe a scene or two at that point. But by the next year, I had a finished product. It was not accepted that year, kept at it the next year, making little improvements, changes here and there. And in 2019, it was accepted for performance in 2020. Little did we know the world was going to rotate the other way for a while. But we finally got it out this year in the virtual format, which I didn't make any changes due to the formats. I think the only thing I changed since submitting it was one word. Somebody said week when they should have said month, but otherwise it was solid. But the online reading format is, well, it's so far removed from an actual stage production, and the regular on stage foreplay is so far removed from a full stage production. But the two of them are not that far apart. Whether you've got just people talking from the stage or talking from your screen, it's not all that fundamentally different. So I don't think it changes anything for me going forward. Maybe you want to adapt for a few technical hiccups. Like there's a few times where 2 characters were talking at the same time and you couldn't hear one of them. So maybe don't script people to talk at the same time, or maybe that could be solved with headphones. I don't know. It's a technical thing. So I'm just going to keep keeping on with what we're doing, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the next
Mm-hmm.
thing I write, I will be writing it under the impression that it will be presented virtually, and then it might end up being on the stage again. Who knows?
Exactly. And I think maybe that's something that writers do need to be conscious of and need to adapt to that. And you're quite right. The technology, and as the technology improves as time goes on, maybe those kinds of things may work themselves out. But you're right. And I thought it translated very well. Again, I was thinking as I was watching it last night, what would this look like as a staged reading with the writers or the readers sitting in a row on our stage, versus the way they had way that your director Chandra Pepper had organized it on the screen. And I thought, yeah, you know what, it adapts very well. There's certain plays I think that are might not do as well, but because yours is so text heavy and because it's so focused on the language of the play versus it being like a putting somebody in a headlock and lots of physical action, it adapted itself. I thought it was A, really interesting, and B, I thought they did a lovely job of adapting it to this format. But this is not your first rodeo, so to speak. This is your second play. Your first play, which I mentioned in the intro, was Ships, and it was featured in our 2017 season. So tell us a bit about that play, and how has your style or your approach to writing changed over time, or has it?
Yeah, Ships was it was a it was sci-fi, as this was a
Mhm,
little harder sci-fi than this one because it took place tens of thousands of years in the future on a spaceship in between
mhm,
the Milky Way and the Andromeda Galaxy. So no way out of that.
mhm.
But approach wise, I'm taking the same approach as I did then. You know, learning some things along the way. I guess it's the style uh, that is either improving or changing over time, just as me as a person, I'm exposed to new ideas, new places, new people, new life experiences. And part of it may just be the subject matter because it was clunky. There's a lot of like page long monologues and you
Mhm,
didn't have like a snappy back and forth between everybody. It was like a Star Trek episode, you know, a bunch of techno babble.
mhm.
We got a little bit of that in this one with Kevin and Marilyn near the end, but
Mhm.
overall, I think this one, you know, it reads better, it flows better. So that's either a side effect of the subject matter, or that's me getting better at what I do. I don't know.
Right. Excellent. And again, it evolves over time. And as you say, you're exposed to more things, you're seeing different things. And I think life just necessarily helps us to shift in different directions as we go along. So what is your writing process like? Where do you start? How do you get an idea? Like for this one, this had a lot of really cool twists and turns, and I'll certainly remind people that if you didn't get a chance to see us live on April 16th, it's going to be up there on our website on the YouTube SST YouTube channel for a while, so you can go back and watch it.
It's right below
Right,
this one.
that's right. It'll be right below this one.
I,
Um,
I watched it again this morning, actually. So
oh, good, excellent. That's great. Um, so if you didn't get a chance to see it, please feel free to go back and watch it, and then you'll get a little bit more of a sense as to why we're talking about the way what we're talking about and how we're talking about it. So where do you start, and how do you progress through a piece in particular?
being that I'm a amateur writer, I have the benefit of time,
Mm,
a lot of it. So, like I said, this started in 2017. The idea or the prompt, I guess, actually came from my wife. We had just had our second child, and when sleep was starting to be a thing that we could do again, she had. I called it a dream, but she reminded me yesterday that it was a nightmare. That suddenly, our daughter Penelope, suddenly there was two of her
mhm,
for some reason, and they were like linked, and I think maybe she died or something, and so yeah,
mhm,
that shook her up. But I went, that's
mhm.
that could be an interesting story. So
Cool.
the initial synopsis I drew up from that would was that there'd be a divorced couple, and the guy, you know, only gets to see the daughter on the weekends and once more time, and his crazy mad scientist father or friend or something helped him
Mhm,
duplicate her. So that's where that all started. And how it evolves is, well, I just write, like if I have an idea, I'll write it down in a Google Doc or something, and then you
mhm,
know put the the date stamp on it.
mhm,
And you know, maybe a week later, maybe a month later, maybe the next day, who knows? I'll you know think about it, have a related idea, and then we just keep trickling down until
mhm.
it's enough stuff that you can uh, re-roll that into a story of some sort.
Right.
Because I think I had close to 20 pages of notes on Morning Bell before I jumped into the actual script writing
Oh,
phase.
cool.
So that's part of my strategy, I guess you could say, is you know you got to take the 10,000 yard view of the project because I find that as soon as you start writing dialogue, you're very hesitant to change it or get rid of it in any way. It's like, oh, that was a good line. I got to keep that in there.
Mhm. Yeah.
So as long as you keep your distance at the early stages,
Mhm.
it's not so painful for you as the creator to you know cut things, change things, and adapt to the changing circumstances of the story.
So then having said that, when do you know that it's, done? Or when do you think it's done? And or do you ever think it's done or it's, "Okay, I gotta get this out to somebody because if I keep working at it, it's just gonna go, pear-shaped." But, yeah, how do you know?
Usually, you know, it's done when it's November 30th and it's the submission deadline for the
For
plays for
whatever,
foreplay.
us or something else, yeah. Do you
Ships. ships, I actually, well, I submitted it on the deadline day. The aforementioned daughter was born that day. So I had it finished in the morning, but I waited for her to be born so that I could put a dedication in there for her, because that's
Kind
key.
of you both. Very kind of you. Her timing was good, as was yours.
Yeah. Yeah,
Me,
the dedication was, to her, the real submission deadline, her
that's
birth.
right.
But
Uh,
other than that, which is an actual deadline, I mean, writing is kind of like trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle where you don't have a picture of the box and there's an infinite number of pieces. And if you just give it more time, you're going to find more pieces that happen to fit together. You're going to find some that don't. Uh, but yeah, you could keep writing, you could keep rewriting things forever. It just comes to a point where, well, you don't want to anymore, or
mhm,
you let somebody else read it finally and they say, oh, okay.
mhm. Yeah, it's I can imagine. I have a lot number of friends who are writers. I am certainly not one of them. And I think everybody's approach differs, but you're right. I think there's a point where you just have to say, okay, I can't keep tinkering with this. And sometimes external feedback is that trigger to say, okay, fine, it's time to move along. Um, so what's next for you as a writer or as a performer? I mean, obviously right now, nothing much for any of us who are performers, but have you got anything in the works writer wise, or any other kinds of projects that you'd like to share with us?
Writing wise, yeah, I've got a few ideas, three of which I could think of, I guess. Some of them just have interesting prompts, and I don't, or they sound interesting at just to describe them, but
Mhm.
don't know if anything's going to cover them. I've got Socrates, the musical, sort of Hamilton inspired, which would be like a gangster rap adaptation of Plato.
Awesome.
That could be fun. Um, I've got, I've just, for this one, I just have a title. And as soon as I told my wife the title, she gave me a great tagline for it. It's How Do You Solve a Murder Like Maria? And
I love it.
she said to me, it's a who none it. Uh.
Tiffany,
But
you still got it.
but
Absolutely.
I think I would have to watch Nonsense just to make sure I'm not stepping on any toes there, because
Hmm.
that's got the market cornered on non-related comedies, I'm sure.
Yeah, possibly.
But the next one you might see from me is I'm calling it To Have and Beholder, and it's about what happens when your last-minute bachelorette party accidentally turns into a impromptu Dungeons and Dragons session. Just roll with it.
Wow. That's
It doesn't.
it's the ideas are fantastic. I can't wait to see any or all of those. Socrates the musical, not gonna lie, that really intrigues me.
That, I
That
think that would be the
sounds
hardest,
cool.
because
That'd be
that
toughy,
would
a little
be
bit of a toughie, yeah.
an
But I think,
adaptation technically
yeah,
rather than a original work. But
that's okay.
um,
At least you've got material to work with.
yeah. And now
Yeah.
with the online performance of Morning Bell, I've had a crazy idea, because in a normal year there would have been 20 people in the theater who saw it, and that would be the end of it. But it's on YouTube now, so it's there
Mhm,
forever, maybe.
mhm.
So maybe a sequel, because we left the ending kind of open. Um,
You did.
so it'd be fun to get the gang back together, because there's this. It was never explicitly said, but there's this, subtle hints that when people's consciousnesses swap bodies, there's a bit of the other person sort of gets left behind. So
Yes.
you might have a search for Spock situation where Pete's, Katra is stuck in Olivia's body and she's going crazy and has to
Mm.
get it out. And you've got Walter up to his nefarious deeds, and Kevin, you think, is on his side, but he's actually, double crossing him or something. And maybe the real Pete is actually still alive in Russia. He's a Russian agent. Who knows?
I think there is a lot of fodder for a sequel. I
And
I don't know.
for the
I'm
first
sure, and I got a
time,
feeling you guys had come up with a really good title for it too.
will be Morning Bell to Bell Harder,
Bellhart.
or Morning Pete, I guess.
Morning, Pete. Oh, that's awesome. No, that's really great. And it's lovely when uh, something like that sparks, further development, because you're right. It did. And I think for the people that have seen it and are going to see it, there's definitely some twists and turns I didn't see coming. And you're right. There's a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end there where there is an opportunity. So I hope that you do that. I think that's fantastic. That's
And
wonderful.
even if it doesn't really happen, yeah, I like giving the audience something to think about. Like, some of my favorite television moments are like season-ending cliffhangers where it's like, oh my God, where are they going to go from here? Thinking of
Gets
like
people back
Lost
watching.
season
Yeah.
3. We have to go back, Kate. Whoa,
Yeah.
where are they going with this? And often the reality is, disappointing compared to what you imagine at that moment. But sometimes you got to take the chance, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, you never want to see something jump the shark if it goes on too long. But on the other hand, I think you can usually get away with at least a sequel. I mean, Rocky 111, that's pushing it a little bit, but I think you might be able to squeeze out another one with this one. So
I think those are Roman numerals. That was just Rocky 3.
I know. But it felt like Rocky 111. So there you go. So listen, thank you so much for being with us. Again, if you haven't had a chance to see Nathan's play Mourning, Belle, come after you finish this, after you hit stop, click on up, down, whatever, somewhere over there, where however your screen is set up, and watch Mourning, Belle. It's about, I guess, an hour and an hour and a half or so production, and it starts in and around the 13-minute mark. We've got some intro stuff and some sponsor stuff, so if you want to get right to the meat of it, just skip forward to about 13 minutes and you'll see it in all its glory.
Why did you watch this one first? You crazy viewer, you.
You crazy viewer, you. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Nathan. Yeah, go on.
Before we go, I want to just praise the cast because they did an awesome job. Like I wrote the thing and I read it 50 times, but I'm never able. Spoilers ahead. I'm never able to successfully get through the second act, still picturing Olivia in Pete's body and Pete in Olivia's body in my mind. It's just impossible. You just see the words, you see it's attributed to Olivia. You can't wrap your head around that, or at least I couldn't. So seeing that for the first time was a real treat. And everybody did an awesome job. Kristen as Olivia and as Pete, Craig as Pete and as Olivia were awesome. Deb was awesome. She really fooled us there with that voice, with her high voice through the first half, and then dropping it back down.
As I said, I didn't see that coming. Yeah.
And Stephen handled the techno babble very well. And so kudos to them. Leslie Koo, great job getting them in and out all the time. And Chandra,
our technical wizard. Yeah, she's amazing. And Chandra did a lovely job, I think, of directing. And you're right, there were lovely nuanced changes in the way that that Craig and Kristen, when they switched, as you said, and as I said, we won't say too much more about it because we do want people to watch. But make note of that, because you'll see there's quite a good delineation in terms of the body language, even on that tiny screen in that little tiny box. You were able to see a good shift. So yeah, and thank you for that. We appreciate it, but it was really neat to see it on its legs. So thank you again, Nathan, for being with us. Thank you for being a regular Foreplay contributor, whether it be as a reader or as a playwright. And we really look forward to seeing Mourning, Belle to Belle Harder, or whatever you end up doing, or Socrates the musical, or any of the above. We really appreciate your support and being part of this with us. So thank you very much, and have a great weekend. And we'll see you back here for our 4th installment of Foreplay Fridays, back on March 21st, when we have a triple header coming up. So keep your eyes on our website and on our social media channels, Instagram and Facebook, for more information about that.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being an outlet for my crazy ideas.
Anytime.